Okay, Jackaroo, Jackaroo. We did some nice prayers, and now it's time to correct this homework before I forget. Okay, so we are on page, at least I am on page 21 when you guys got 22. Okay, 22 homework. And we talked about B and C already. Well, one is negative 25 and one is positive 25. Of course, please put equal signs there. It doesn't make sense. If you have a negative out in front, just leave it out in front. If the negative is part of the bracket, then you have to apply it to the exponent. So negative 5 times negative 5. It doesn't matter when you have a cube, because they're both negative. Sorry. They're both negative anyway, because 3 negative signs equal a negative, and if you have a negative out in front, that's also negative. So it's only important to know that. Well, it's important you know that anyway, just for your own math skills. But for B and C, you need to know what's the difference, which one is negative 25, which one is positive 25. And that goes to this question right here, number 6. First of all, everyone punch in 8 to the 0 exponent in your calculator. I usually get the right answer here, but sometimes people put 0. There's no need to guess at all. You have a calculator. If you don't know what something to the 0 exponent is, just punch it in your calculator. And it'll take you 5 seconds, and hopefully you'll remember it for the next 5 years. Okay, but 0 exponent equals what? 1 or 0? 1. Okay, so hopefully you can see why this one is negative 1 and this one is positive 1. This one has a negative sign, just leave it out in front. This one, the negative sign is in the brackets. So that whole thing turns into the number 1. Okay? And now we're going to go to, oops, that doesn't come down for some reason. What's going on? Not sure. Oh yeah, this is a bit, well that should still come down. Nope, now it came down 22 pages in 1 second. Let's not do that. Mayday, mayday. Alright, this is going to be easier to do this way. Okay, so I want to go to number 8 now. And it says, it has a different word than what we talked about. It says evaluate. But when it says evaluate, and usually it doesn't. Usually you can leave your answer. If you add exponents, you can leave your answer as 3 to the 4th. But if it says evaluate, evaluate says means find the value of. So you can't leave it in exponential form. You have to tell me what 3 to the 4th equals. And if you know 9 times 9 equals 81, you know that 4 3s equal 81. So that's why, I mean, this to me is kind of ridiculous. I don't, but at the same time, I think they're just asking me to use your calculator. So if it says evaluate, you have to actually tell me what the answer is, what the final answer is. So clean up your answers and see, you probably left it as 8 squared. But you need to put it, if it says evaluate, you need to put equals 64. Same thing with this one. This is kind of, I like this one. And if you're not sure, just do this anyway, because I'm not going to ever take marks off if you put 64. And it takes an extra 5 seconds. That's my number of the day, Sesame Street. Do, 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 do. No, that's a Sesame Street. Da 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 da. Brought to you by the number 5. Don't high five today. Wait till next year. 5. Okay, and yeah, so that's what we're doing here. Yup. I want to talk about 15. So go to the next page, I think. And those were a little different. I want you to try them on your own first. But here we go. So we're at the bottom here. So 15, you just have to ask yourself, are you going to add exponents or multiply exponents? And then this one, you add exponents. So 3 plus what number equals 9? That's how you do this one. And then you just fill in what number, 3 plus what number equals 9. Okay, so that's a little different question than number 12 and 11 and 10, but not too much. It's just adding and multiplying and subtracting. You never divide exponents. So if you didn't get 15a right, try B, C, and D again. So B, you're looking, okay, again, the same thing. You're adding exponents, so what plus 4 equals 8? It actually turns into a very easy question, but you have to ask the right question in your big fat brain. So do B, C, and D, and we'll throw it up in a minute. Thanks for coming today, and you're going to have a fantastic day. God says so. Okay, so there's the answers for 15. Just maybe a little hard to start these, but now once you get the hang of it, you're subtracting exponents. So what number subtract 4 equals 12? That's a little harder one. But 16 subtract 4 equals 12. So once you put your answer, just see if it works. So if you put 8 there, which would be a common mistake, 8 subtract 4 doesn't equal 12. Okay, so you can fix your mistake if you quickly check it. D is what 10 subtract what number equals 2, and E is what number times 5 equals 15. So it's just applying exponent laws. Nothing too tricky. And then 19 isn't too tricky either, but you got to understand there is a trick to 19. So most of the time students lose marks on 19. It's not because they don't know how to do it, they just don't do both things. 19 asks you for 2 things. You have to identify the mistake, you have to tell me what they did wrong, and then you have to correct it. Don't do one of them, because you get 50% on this question. It's not meant to be a hard question. Okay, so please put read and do 2 things. 2 things to do here. Identify the error and then correct it. So it's not good enough to say it equals 2 to the 7th. Okay, well you get 50%. You need to tell me what they did wrong. They multiplied when they should have added, and then you have to tell me what the answer is when you do it correctly. Okay, so 2 things to do there, not just one. Is that amazing special effects? Do you have a question?
Yeah, what if you know they did something wrong but you don't know how to explain it?
Yeah, well then you're going to have to write these down, and these are probably ones that, so something like this one you might have a hard time explaining it. I would just say they did 3 squared instead of 3 times 2. Okay, but you're going to have to explain it so that I understand it as a math teacher. But if you have a question like that, you can just ask me. I'll help you out what I expect to get full marks. Okay? You can go on the board for the chalk bar. You're always on there. Oh. Redness order. The Flames, who have won 2 games in a row. Woohoo! 2! They won last time and this time. That's amazing. Hasn't happened since 1979 for the Flames. 2-game winning streak. Good job. Stupid Flames. Okay, and I think that's all I want. Yep. Okay, so I'm on page 17, so that probably means that you're on page 18. Again, the handouts are a bit mixed up because of when I put it in PDF, they got bigger or something. But page 18, maybe page 18 to you, or page 19 says practice test. You might have already done it. because I sent it yesterday, but that's going to be homework for tomorrow. So maybe even if you've done it, look at those again just to get you ready. Tomorrow you have a quiz, which is a quarter of a test. Your quiz is on everything up to page 19. So pages 1 to 19, write that down somewhere, or just make a note of it, or even on the front of the first page, write down pages 1 to 19 is on the quiz tomorrow. You do not need to know exponent laws, but you need to know everything else that we've done from pages 1 to 19. It's definitely not going to take the whole period, maybe half a period, and you'll be done, and then we'll move on to the next part of the unit. Okay, good. So now, you guys, podcast people, are going to get your big quiz out, and you're going to get a different pen or ready instrument that you did it with. You're going to check the quiz, and this is going to be the most important thing we do for grade 10 and grade 11. You can't add, subtract, multiply, or divide radicals unless you know how to do this. Usually, anyway. Most of the multiplication questions are simplify at the end. Okay, I already gave the other class the answers for A and B because we had extra time, so I'm just going to, if you didn't get A and B right, just mark them right, write down what I have, and everyone gets A and B right, okay? Now, what I would advise you do, and that's a perfect cube. Oh, look at that, I started with a mistake already. Okay, rewind. Okay, podcast people didn't see that happen. So let's go perfect squares. What I would do if I were you is write down the perfect square chart. It takes 5 seconds. And you need a number on this list times another number that equals 32. However, if the number is already on the list, you don't break it up. You just square root it. Okay, before you met me, you knew that the square root of 25 equals 5. It still does. So 3 square root of 25 is just another way of, a fancy way of saying 3 times 5. You don't put 5 radical 5. Square root of 25 equals the number 5. Square root of 25 means what number multiplied by itself 2 times, or multiplied by itself equals 25. Okay? So that's just 15. That was a little harder, probably the hardest question on the test, so bless you. 4 times 10 doesn't work, but 8, I'm good. I'm doing cubic roots. Sorry, I just did a section on cubic roots for my AP, so let's restart. What is it, everyone? Tell me, math teacher is out to lunch. 2 radical 10. Good. Need to see me at lunch, I'll be in the cafeteria. Radical 8 is the easiest one there is, so please get a check mark for that guy. This is a hard one. 32 and 48 are 16 times 3. By the way, these are worth 2 each. For the last one's only out of 1 because it's the hardest one. So 2 each. This is negative 7 times 4, and then you multiply them. So negative 28. If you have a radical 8 or a radical 12 in your answer, that means you didn't choose the biggest one, the biggest perfect square. So you would have to simplify it again, but I would just go back and do it with the 16 instead of 4 and then 4 again. Okay, so if you used a 4 for that one, 4 times 12, you can take 1 mark out of 2, but if it was multiple choice, you won't get any marks. And what's the answer for the square root of 121? It's on the list. It's not 11, good try.
It is.
It's not 11, good try. What are both answers? You got one of the answers. Oh, silence. This is so dramatic, podcast people. But it's not dramatic like they're falling asleep. They're actually intense and they go, what? Just tell us. Hurry up. No, I won't. You tell me. What number times itself equals 121? And? Positive and negative 11. is the answer in grade 10. Know that for grade 11 quadratic equations, negative 11 times itself equals 121. So if you put 11, you get 1.5. Next time you're going to get 1 because you only gave me one of the answers. So just you lost a half a mark if you put 11, like most people do the first time, especially after a 95-day Easter break. This is not 25, it's 100. Technically, it's positive negative 10 radical 3, but we're not going to worry about it when there's a radical with it. Can I move it up now? Nope, I can't. So those are those ones. And these ones I'm just going to quickly do, and if you correct, ask me any questions that you have, okay? This one's the hint, divide by 2 or 3, and with big numbers you usually get the answer. 4, you do not square root to 4. 4 does not equal 2. You only square root to 4 if it's a square root of 4. Okay, so just because you see a 4 or a 9, you don't square root it as soon as you see a 9. You just bring down the 4. Square root of 25 is 5. And don't lose the 4. Sometimes I see the answer as 5 radical 3, and someone just lost the 4, but you didn't do half your work, so you kind of lose half your marks. Next, this is the hint, divide by 2, and you're happy. This one is probably the second easiest one I can give you. And don't forget to multiply the 3 by 2. How do those look so far, my friends? Yep. All right, we got some thumbs. We got a man nod. You're gonna be fun, Dad. You know what it is, man? You know our Christmas presents? Okay. And I'm going to give you just a mark for that one. That's it. If you got cubic root 1, since we just did it yesterday, I'll give you a bonus mark. So you can get 26 out of 25 here if you get everything right on this page. But what the heck is 675? Anyone find it out? Calculator magic? Ruby?
It's radical 225.
Good job. 225 times 3, and luckily we did make it to cubic roots yesterday, or was it the day before? So what's cubic root of 5,000 break up to? Ready? Good. Okay, so if you got 15 radical 3, that's a mark. If you put 25 times something, I give you half a mark for that. Okay, this question's only out of 1. So that's out of 1. That means everything's out of 25. Here's your bonus mark. If you put down what's the cubic root of 1,000? 10 cubic root of 5 is the bonus mark. Now, if you forgot the cubic, all right, I'll still give you the bonus mark, but actually I won't. You get a half of a bonus mark. But if you're dealing with cubic roots, you have to deal with cubic roots. And now you would not add these. You cannot add square roots with cubic roots. So if you did that, cross that out. That's wrong. You can only add radical 3s with radical 3s next year. You can only add cubic root of 5s with cubic root of 5 next year. Man, I feel that sounds so smart when you don't know what I'm talking about. Some of you do. Some of you want to do some grade level math last year already. And that's cool. Okay, give yourself a mark out of 25. Probably easier if you subtract. I lost a mark here, I lost a half mark here. I get 23.5 because I didn't get the bonus. And I will come around and get you marked. And study this tonight. Do the questions again that you didn't get right. Now I can let you have a blank one. Yeah, I got some extra copies here. In fact, I think I have enough for everyone. I'll do it again, because it's the most important skill. So here's an extra copy of that quiz to do again tonight. It should be easier tonight, that's for darn sure. Sorry for swearing. Alright, podcast people, we're going to pause here. Right now we're just handing out an extra quiz like this to study for tonight. And make sure you do that review assignment. This podcast isn't over yet, so unpause in whenever you're ready. Pause, pause, pause. Okay. This is actually a pretty good class. You guys are awake and so intense, so it's not even going to wake up. You're pretty awake. But let's get up and do some math karate. Everyone, stand up. Okay, so there's another math song. Remember how the Village People stole my YMCA song, even though it was RPSA, before steps word problems? Well, math karate, we're gonna adopt this song. Everyone is kung fu fighting. Hi-ya! Okay, we're doing the hi-ya part. You know the hi, you know who's got, you got judo. Who else has done some martial arts at all? I haven't. Good? Okay, so we're gonna start with math karate, but before we start doing our math, we gotta do the karate part. So we're gonna do something like this. Hi-ya! Alright, you gotta just feel it in your soul. Okay, great. So I'm sure that's what you do for judo, first thing. Alright, everyone, let's go. Ready, begin. Hi-ya! This is too much fun to be embarrassed about. Okay, then we're gonna go 0. Everyone do this with me and repeat. 0 exponent equals 1. Everyone repeat it. 0 exponent equals 1. And we're back for another. Hi-ya! Yes. Then we're going to go negative exponent. Make a negative sign. Negative exponent equals 1 over, say it with me, 1 over grand finale. Okay. You're saving your screens. I understand. You want to do good for the podcast people. All right, here we go. Ready? Begin. Hiya! 0 exponent equals 1. Now it's like here. 0 exponent equals 1. Another one. Hiya! Repeat. Negative exponent equals 1 over gravity. All right, sit down, you silly people. Good job, risk takers. So, when you see a negative exponent, 90% of the times you're going to write down 1 over the positive exponent. So let's go to the next page. So find this chart here, guys. So you can see here, 10 to the negative 1 does not equal negative 10. It equals 1 over 10 to the positive 1. Okay, let's do this one. 10 to the negative 2. Math karate, the first thing you write down is 1 over 10 to the positive 2. And then you got to tell me what 10 squared is. Now, just don't lose the 1 over part. Okay, math karate, it's 1 over. You got to write down 1 over every time. So you end up with a fraction. Go ahead and do 10 to the negative 3rd, which is 1 over 10 to the positive 3. And hopefully you know what 10 times 10 times 10 is. Or you can use your calculator, but guess first, and then confirm it with the calc. Hi-ya! I feel like smashing the table. I used to have 45 desks in this room until I math karate them up. Still a sore hand. So 2 martial art, any like black belt-ish type thing, or close, or what belt are you on?
Almost.
Almost black? Really? Good deal. And judo guy?
Yeah.
Close to black? Good for you. So how many years does that mean for you, dude?
Oh, I quit.
Okay, but
Yeah,
how many
I
years?
got to brown and I quit.
How many years did you have?
I did almost 7, I think.
Wow, good for you.
6, 7.
I don't know, 10 maybe.
Wow, good for you. All right, well, if you guys don't want to do your homework, you don't have to do your homework. Whatever you want. If you want to write the test, you can write the test if you want. my coach. All right, 10 to the negative 3 is 1 over 10 to the positive 3. And then don't leave it like that, and don't lose the 1 over part. That's the whole point of a negative exponent. It's 1 over the positive exponent. Okay, do these and these. For Ruby and Hugo will have a little chat with you in the hallway. Everyone's kung fu fighting. Yeah! Don't know the other line. Ah! 1 over. 1 over. 1 over 3 to the positive 1 is just 3. 1 over 3 to the positive 2 is 1 over 9. And 1 over 3 cubed. What's 3 times 3 times 3? 127. Okay, do the A's. If you feel like yelling, go ahead and yell. I'm not gonna get that from the option given. And all throughout the class day, you could just give her a karate yell if you want. Now, the weirdest thing was that French karate yell. That was interesting. The guy who came yesterday, Michel. Girls, they just forget his accents, watch the map, and let him distract you. I can see your ears. You have ears. Okay, so it's almost easier with letters because you don't have to do anything as far as 3 squared. 1 over a to the positive 2 is just that. You leave it. 1 over a to the positive 3 is just that. Okay, so those are negative exponents, and now you saw this word for homework. Evaluate means what we did here. So you can't leave it as 10 cubed. You got to put it as 1 over 1,000. Okay, so go ahead and do these. And please concentrate and go ahead and do a karate yell if you have to. But this does not equal negative 2. If you put negative 2, you know you're wrong. You know you get 0 marks for that one, and probably all the other negative exponents. First thing you write down is 1 over, and you'll be just fine and dandy. Podcast people, I'll just leave you on that. Never mind. It's going to take long to do those 3 questions. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. When's your quiz? Tomorrow, first thing. Pages 1 to 19. Everything on pages 1 to 19. No small laws. No small laws on the quiz. It's just a 1-pager. We have plenty of time to do some math. Next. Yeah! That's a kick, by the way. I just kicked a roof, podcast people. Don't even try and with my left foot. I know I'm going to fix that roof thing now, but oh well. It's not my problem. I got 2 bodyguards now. I got my back. Okay, so 2 to the negative 1 is 1 over 2 to the positive 1, which is 1 over 2. 3 to the negative 2 is not negative 6. It is not negative 9. If you're guessing, that's probably what you'll put, and you'll get 0. What do you do? First thing you see a negative sign, negative exponent is 1 over. 1 over the positive exponent. So 3 to the negative 2 is 1 over 3 to the positive 2, which is 1 over 9. So someone give me the final answer for this one. Yep.
1 over 16.
Good job. Yep. So 1 over 4 to the positive 3, which is 1/64. Don't put 64. 64 is not the same as 1/64. You have to put the 1 over. Okay, so now we're going to combine the exponent laws with negative exponents. Okay, so again, you got to read the question, because you don't want to leave it, have an answer at 5 to the negative 2, because that's not a positive exponent. You'd have to make it 1 over 5 to the positive 2. Okay, so let's apply the exponent laws. Here you add exponents. You get 4 squared. Oh, and it also says evaluate. So I now have to tell me that 4 squared equals 16. And it says evaluate. Okay, so go ahead and do B. Apply the exponent law. Add exponents, bless you. And then make it positive exponents. So if it says make it positive exponents, it means you have to do 1 over for the negative exponents. Hey-ya! I should try it again. Hit the roof. After a triple backflip. Too bad you're not here, podcast people. It's pretty impressive for a 26-year-old to do that. And we're already 26. Pause. P. Pause. 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 I did not record. Okay, luckily you didn't miss any fantastic jokes. You just missed those 2 questions. Thank you, Andy, Natalie. So B, you can't just leave it as 3 to the negative third, 1 over 3 to the positive 3. Now C, study start, we haven't done this yet, and we could do this by multiplying by the reciprocal, because this is 1 divided by 2 to the negative 5th, and dividing by a fraction means multiplying by the reciprocal. You remember all that stuff? Well, you should have learned that grade 7, 8. So we're going to just go right to the shortcut, which we don't usually do, but I don't have time to explain every single shortcut to you. You can if you want, if you come in at lunchtime. But if you have a negative exponent up top, we've been doing that. Negative exponent up top, you can just bring it down and make it positive. Well, the opposite is true too. If you have a negative exponent in the denominator, you can just bring it up and make it positive. Okay, so this one, you bring the denominator up, but you make it positive, so this actually just becomes 2 to the 5th. Okay, so any negative exponent in the denominator, you can make it positive in the numerator. And then 2 to the 5th is 32. Yeah! Oh, okay. You're on way. Feeling saucy. Okay, now this is something you certainly did, I think, grade 7, 8, exponent laws. So if you can do, in D, if you can do this one, you can do this one. This one, you just do 10 subtract 4, top exponent, subtract bottom exponent. This one is a little harder because that's negative signs, but it's still the exact same thing. It's the top number subtract the bottom number. Okay, so when you do this, you keep the base. The top number is -7. Subtract, and the bottom number is -5. It's definitely trickier, but it's the same thing. It's top number subtract bottom number. So when I say subtract, that doesn't mean -5 is part of the subtraction. -5 is the bottom number. There has to be a subtraction sign in front of it. Okay, so this, as you know, the double sign turns into plus, becomes -7 plus 5. Now go ahead and finish it. You can't guess on this. If you guess, you're going to put 12, -12, 2, or -2. You have a 1 in 4 chance if you're guessing. It's top number subtract bottom number. When the bottom number is negative, it's going to be subtracted negative, which means plus. You've done this before. It's trickier, but it's certainly not impossible. If you can do that, you can do this one. It's the same thing. Top number subtracts bottom number. Now, if you get a negative, go ahead and 1 over it. 1 over the positive and evaluate it. So 1 over 6 to the positive 2, which is 1/36. Okay, your turn to do E. Now those are certainly would star D as well to study. Is this on the quiz tomorrow? Okay, it is not. It is not. This is not pages 1 to 19. I should get my textbook out. Ready to that book. All right, let's finish this off. 2 to the negative 3, you multiply exponents, which is 1 over 2 to the positive 3, which is 1 over 8. Sorry about this too. All right, homework. Give you 5 minutes to work on homework. And then we're going into our textbook to do some rational exponents, which means exponents that has fractions in them. Dun dun dun. All right, 5 minutes to work on homework. Podcast people, and then you can unpause. Homework is the next section. What is it? Up to number 8 until it says rational exponents. So this is your end of the homework right here. Go ahead, and some of these questions are pretty quick. Hey, math karate. Yeah. 0 exponent equals 1. 0 exponent equals 1. Yeah. Oh, I don't know why they can't see that. I'm pointing at negative 8.3 to the 0th. Go to school, Mars. Pause. Let's play ball. Textbook. First, you need to know that this equals the nth root of x. Kind of some university talk here. That's what they're going to give you. Your professors, she's going to say, she's going to give you a theorem like this, and then you're going to, what? Where are the numbers? And you just have to put numbers in for n to understand it. But before they do that, I want to do this. What do you think 49 to the 1/2 equals? 7, good. Because, well, we see 49, we just associate with 7, because 7 times 7. But yeah, 1/2 exponent of 1/2 means square root. So, that's what this theorem says. If you have 5 to the 1/2, that's the square root of 5. If you have 5 to the 1/8, that's the 8th root of 5. If you have 5 to the 1/3, that's the cubic root of 5. Okay, so the denominator, excuse me, the denominator equals the index. Sorry for the, not the great writing. So denominator equals index, which means root. Okay, so 3 is in the denominator, it's cubic root. If the 5 is in the denominator, it's 5th root. So I'm going to just write these questions down, I guess, on the side so podcast people can see them, but they're in your textbook. So page 227 in your textbook. Go ahead and rewrite these ones as a root, 36 to the 1/3, and 48 to the 1/2. What root is that? And then negative 30 in brackets to the 1/5. So go ahead and do that. It should take you very short time. Anytime you see a fractional exponent, a rational exponent, remember fractions means rational. So that's why these are rational exponents. That means fractional exponents. Anytime you have a fraction as exponent, the denominator is the root. The denominator is the index, the small number. So having said that, let's do one of these, make sure you're on the right track. So 36 to the 1/3 is the same thing as the cubic root of 36. And it doesn't say evaluate, so you don't need to tell me what that equals. Although you do have a cubic root button on your calculator for sure. Anybody know where it is? Where is it, Sydney?
Oh, it's in your like math section.
Right. Yeah, press the math button and you'll find your cubic root. And you'll also find a button that you can do fifth root, is when you press 5 first. 5. We're not there yet. Okay, 48 to the 1/2 is the same thing as the square root of 48. Now, why don't you put a 2 there? Well, you could. We just don't. For square roots, they all have a 2 there. It's just imaginary. If you put a 2 there, that's fine, but we don't put a 2 when we write down the square root of 25. We just write down the square root of 25. Good save, Andy Natalie. Thank you. Recorder manager. Assistant. Professional. Lastly, you need to put this under the radical sign. So don't put negative in front, put it in the radical, okay? So it looks weird, but you can take cubic roots of negatives and you can take fifth root of negatives. So you can have negative radicands. So this is the fifth root of negative 30. And the negative, if it's in brackets, goes under the radical sign. If it's not in brackets, the negative will go here. Okay, so if it's in brackets, it goes under the radical sign. Write that down if you want, or just remember it. But that's different than if it was no brackets, then the negative sign would be out here if there was no brackets. Okay, so homework, and yes, you have a quiz and you're going to do this homework. You already have homework for the math karate. I think I'll leave this homework for Thursday. Okay, so don't worry about this homework. This is obviously not on the quiz. So that's Thursday homework. But get that other homework on math karate, that little part we just had on this podcast, done for tomorrow. Okay, now we have this important theorem Professor Marielli gives us. And this one, when he has a fraction, and sorry, it was hard to write down a fraction as a typing, but if you have a fraction, you have to know whether m is the root or n is the root. And we just talked about the denominator is the index. So when you see 7/8, you have to know whether it's 7th root or 8th root. If that's the exponent, is that 7th root or 8th root? It's the denominator. Okay? The 7 goes outside in brackets. So let's talk about this right now. Example 2AB. So this is where I don't want you to look into your textbook because it gives you the answers with the questions. So example 2A says, and you can write it down here, it says write 40 to the 2/3 in 2 different ways, and we will, but we're going to you only use one of the ways 99% of the time, but if you see the other way, you should at least recognize it. So again, first thing you look at is the denominator. So it's cubic root, not square root. So you write down cubic root of 40, and this is where the 2 goes. It goes outside the bracket. That's the 99% of the time way we're going to go. Write it down, please. Quick. Or you might see it this way very few times, but you have to understand that this is the same thing. But if we do it this way, instead of doing the square root of 4 or cubic root of 40, we're gonna do the cubic root of 1,600. So that's why we usually don't do it this way, because you're just gonna have to deal with big giant numbers instead of square root of 4. You'll be dealing with the square root of 256. So I'd rather deal with the square root of 4. So next one says you do this. Write this in 2 different ways. 26 to the 5/6, is that what it says? No, 2/5. Not even close. 26 to the 2/5, write 2 different ways, please, in radical form. Allie wants to talk to you. By the way, Auntie Natalie's a hairdresser, so you're probably going to be and she owns her own shop. And she lives in Wynyard, Saskatchewan, right now of about 8,200 people. About a deal. Okay, so this is the 5th root of 26, all squared. I like this one the best. Or you could say the 5th root of 26 squared, if you want to deal with big, giant numbers. Now let's get into more of the questions that you're going to see. So this is textbook number 10. ABD is what we'll do together. Go ahead and write this. This is textbook, just so you know where we are. Page 227. So 10A is 48. It says evaluate 48 to the 2/3. Oh, this is not what I want at all. Okay, never mind. Nope. Let's just do the ones that, the only one that really is different. Let's do decimal 7/5 to the decimal 7/5 power. That's a new one. Don't worry about these ones. We just did this. In fact, I crossed them out for next year. Yeah, sevens. Seven's a 1. Start of this one, anytime you have a decimal exponent, notice our heading is not decimal exponents, it's rational exponents. There's no heading decimal exponents. So when you have a decimal exponent, you turn it into a fraction. Okay, so write that down, turn into fraction, and then you can do what we did over here. So hopefully you know decimal 7/5 is the same thing as 3/4. If you don't know that, punch it in your calculator. So everyone on your calculator, just confirm that for me. Put decimal 7/5, and then math button, and then enter. So if you have a decimal that you don't know what fraction is, use the math button, and then enter, and it'll turn any decimal into a fraction. Did it say 3/4? Okay, go ahead and finish it off now. Give me 2 different ways to write that as a radical. And I'm going to put math button here for calculator if you need it. Okay, if you're not sure what the decimal turns into, if you don't know decimal 125 is 1/8, then put math decimal 125 math fraction equals, and you'll see it equals 1/8. Nice shirt, right? I agree. So light. I think it's a fishing shirt. last forever. I don't know where it disappeared. Oh, I forgot to highlight the yellowness of it. I wore yellow shoes. Should wear my Air Jordans. I don't think I'm cool enough though. That was almost the saddest story of my life. I wanted Air Jordans in grade 10. I did have a job. I was a busboy. So I bought Air Jordans. They were $100 each. That was 95 years ago. And I had them for 2 days, I think. And someone stole them. And they probably were the first Air Jordans, so they're probably worth like thousands of dollars because they're collectible. I wouldn't have known that. I would have just thrown them out. But they're in a locked locker. I had locked my locker. Like, how can they be stolen? I don't even get it. But someone picked my lock out. I was devastated. They punched in the gut. I hope that person is doing well now and gives to charity. That didn't make my day. I was very sad. That's why I didn't become an NBA player. It had nothing to do with my height. By the way, podcast people, I'm way taller than in Smartboard right up here. That's about my shoulder width, or my shoulder height. And then, it looks like what? I'm about 6 inches from the roof with my top of my head. I wish. I would have definitely been in the CFL if I was that tall. Okay, so this is the fourth root of 0.75, all cubed, or you can put the cube under the radical sign in the radicand. Next. This is the one we like. Number 7, CEF. 7CEF. Okay, this is more like the questions that I'm going to ask you. I'm rarely going to just ask you to rewrite it. I'm going to ask you to rewrite it and evaluate it. So I'm not going to say cubic root of 10. It's going to turn into the cubic root of 8, which turns into 2. Or it's going to turn into the square root of 25, which turns into 5. Okay? So let's go ahead and do those ones. 7C. 8 to the 2/3. 8 to the 2/3. So the first thing we do is rewrite it. Is it square root or cubic root? That's the root, the denominator. So it's a cubic root of 8, all squared. And now, almost every time on a test, you go further. What's a cubic root of 8, everyone? 2. You got to bring that 2 down. And what's 2 squared? If that was your hockey number, Bobby Orr could have wore 8 to the 2/3 on the back of his jersey. And should have. So that equals 4. Interesting. Let's try, we're going to be one step at a time for you to do 8 to the 4/3. Okay, so first rewrite this as a radical. Let's do one step at a time. So write that as a 4th root or a cubic root. Such hard workers. Thank you so much. So I still going to take attendance. And there's tails like the duck. Guys, tomorrow, don't forget. So this is the cubic root of 8. And then you put the 4 outside the brackets as an exponent. Next, simplify that part and leave the 4 as an exponent. Go. Cubic root of 8. Let's just say we don't know what the cubic root of 8 is. Let's talk about our calculator keys. So Sid the Kid said math. And then what's cubic root? What number? 4? Okay. So you have to understand, so when you press math, that you have to understand which one is cubic root, 3 or 4, and 4 is the one with the root sign, right? So 4 is the cubic root of 8. If you don't know, cubic root of 243 is put in your calculator, and you get 2, and then 2 to the 4th, just to make sure everyone knows the exponent button. Exponent button's right here. So 2 exponent 4, that's the exponent button. Or just do it in your head. So 16, if your hockey number is 16, you know what I'm talking about. Lastly, this one do on your own, please. 8 to the 5/3. Give me the answer. What hockey number is that? Or football number, or soccer number, basketball number. Rugby. Kids love rugby. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to get a chance to play baseball. It's one of the very few sports we haven't played yet. Anybody know anything about the Davisburg? Is that, sorry for this question, but is that like Okotoks or is that the town of Davisburg?
We're out of town.
What's that?
We're out of town.
How far out of town?
I don't know, but like, I've seen it before.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how far that would be. They're not very good at answering their emails. Sent 2 of them, and registration closes today. Okay, quick. I'll give you another minute. Nope, not even 30 seconds to do that. What's the final answer, somebody? 32? That sounds right. Now, if you wanted to do it this way, what's 8? Someone give me the answer of 8 to the 5th. What's 8 times itself 5 times? So you calculator. Sorry? 32,000 something what? 762? That's what I said. 8? So you can see why we don't do the other way, because we have to do the cubic root of 32,768. It doesn't make much sense at all. But 32 is a winner. Ding, 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 ding. Love it. 8 ABC. No. Don't love that. 16 is probably where we want to be. Ooh. 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 Okay, let's do 16. On your own. Maybe. I think I told you how to do this. I know I told you how to do this. We run out of time, so let's do this one together and you do the other 2. 1.5. You have a decimal exponent. What do you turn it into? A fraction. What fraction is 1.5? Try with or without your calculator. Someone said 3/2. Okay, so there's an extra step to this one. If you don't know that, just put 1.5 on your calculator. 1.5, math, enter. And then this is the square root of 16, all cubed, which equals 4 cubed, which equals 64. Going a little faster on that one because I want to do these questions before you get homework for Thursday. So again, this homework is not due tomorrow because you have a quiz to study for. 81, go ahead and do this one please, to the decimal 7.5 exponent. And negative 32, you might have to use your math fraction, or you can just know decimal 8 means 8/10 and then reduce that fraction in your head, and yay. Alright, what's going on? Mayday. walkabouts. Stand by. There. Okay, do those 2 questions, please. We got about 3 minutes, so it's almost perfect timing. Turn the fractions into decimals. Sorry, turn the decimals into fractions. This is what I mean. If you have 1.5, I'll show it to you once with the calculator. You put, come on, buddy. 1.5, then you press math, and then number 1 turns it into a fraction, so just press enter, and then you got to press enter again. And that turns 1.5 into 3/2, which allows you to root it and cube it. Homework is going to be 10, 11, 12. So I got to give you 10, but it's not due till Thursday. Okay, so homework is the main one is study for the quiz, pages 1 to 19. Make sure you do pages 18 and 19 for sure if you haven't already. And then you also have the math, the first math karate section. Little bit of homework for tomorrow. 81. What's 0.75 as a fraction? Now, if you just punch this in your calculator and you put 64 and you miss all these steps, how many marks do you think you're going to get? You're going to get 25% at the most. You might even get less than that. I might give you 12.5%. Basically, you're going to get nothing because you missed all of this. You have to show me all this work on how you get 64. Don't just punch that in your calculator and think that's a good thing, because it's not. You need to show me that the 4th root of 81 equals 3, and 3 cubed equals 27. Dougie Hamilton could put that number on the back of his jersey. I don't know if he's still 27. Maybe. P.J. Brody sure isn't. -32 to the 4/5. This is the hardest one, probably. You guys don't put anything away. Finish this off. What's the 5th root of -32? Yeah, but you better not do this, because your calculator or your brain will give you the wrong answer. It's not -2 to the 4th, it's -2 all to the 4th. You need to put in brackets. So the answer, bless you, is 16. It's not -16. Okay, so homework again for tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow is not Thursday. Tomorrow's Thursday? Cool. Nice to meet you guys. Made your day. Okay, I just wanted you to add in these questions right here. So that's fine. These aren't due till Friday. 10 CE. Just add 2 questions to 11 and 12. 10 CE. And go wash your desks. And God bless. Have an awesome day. Salute, podcast people.